So something I've been thinking a lot about lately is that whole idea of who am I? Who was I? Who am I becoming as I'm trying to navigate this early perimenopausey stuff, right? And it's actually been quite interesting, really. Like, I've been noticing my energy levels fluctuate, my interests change. In fact, I think I'm actually more active now as I'm going through perimenopause than I was when I was in my 30s. Almost coming back to when I was in my 20s and playing sport and working and, things like that. But yet also having a distinctly different kind of lifestyle. Like, I'm also just not interested in doing what everyone else is doing or pleasing others or being popular or any of that, because CBF, I just kind of want to do my own thing. I just want yarn and to knit and crochet or to sew things. And even if it doesn't look shop bought, don't really care, because I'm proud of myself for having made it in the first place. So I've been noticing like my attitudes and beliefs and things have also been sort of changing in this. And I've been struggling to work out whether it is because of early perimenopause, um, whether it's because I'm just getting older and maturing anyway, or what. I don't know. But one major thing I've noticed has definitely been my energy fluctuating. Now, have you been experiencing something like that at all? Like, if you're also in your maybe 40s or going through perimenopause or anything like that yourself, have you been noticing that things that you did have energy for, you perhaps don't, or you don't want to spend the energy that you have on certain things anymore, or maybe you are like me and have been doing a lot of reevaluating of life and trying to figure out what actually is important to you. Like, a main thing that I had been noticing, and I think it was probably my first sort of like tip off that there was something else going on, was working in emergency and feeling like everyone else seems to be able to get through a whole 12 hours. Whereas for me, I was finding myself like increasingly just wiped out. And because you need to be on for the entire time that you're on the floor, like, yeah, I might get, all up about an hour and 20 minutes worth of breaks, like a dinner break, a lunch break, and 2 10-minute tea breaks that you usually just roll into 1 20-minute break and leave it at that, for like morning tea or something. I would find that with being on all the time like that, it would just deplete me so much that by about 5 p.m, if I started at 7 a.m, that I was definitely done. And so that last 2 hours of my shift would just really be hard work to get through. I mean, that's when I would make the most mistakes. That would also, unfortunately, be a much busier time of the day compared to like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning when I first started. That would be comparatively less full on. And, I was blaming myself a lot, like thinking that there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not cut out for work in emergency. Maybe I'm just not suited to any of this sort of work. And it wasn't until stepping away from it that I realized, actually it's probably, because my body is starting to transition into early perimenopause, which feels weird because I'm 41. I don't feel like I'm at that stage of life yet, but in chatting with my mum, that's what she and her mum and, her sisters and stuff went through. They all went through perimenopause a bit earlier in life, and that's kind of how it was. And so, it's been something that, like, I've chatted with my GP because I've sort of looked into some of the symptoms and thought, oh, yeah, I'm definitely feeling warmer at night. Wouldn't say that I'm having hot flashes or anything like that compared to what some of my other friends and colleagues have been going through. Well, they've been in this state of change too. At the moment, I'm not eligible for hormone replacement therapy. The symptoms are probably not severe enough consistently to need it just yet anyway for me. And so, my blood tests don't corroborate my experience at this point, because my hormone levels are still there, My periods are sometimes delayed by up to 2 weeks. So, I haven't started skipping any yet. And so what does all of this have to do with anything? Well, I guess it's that whole kind of thing around change and how we go through these transitions in life where we think that we know where we're at, or we've become really comfortable in a way of living or being or something, and then we find ourselves completely out of our depth, just feeling completely weird because things are changing, and we're like, why is it like this? And I think sometimes we start to blame ourselves first, like I should be able to, and you get that kind of language that almost has a bit of guilt with it. I should be able to get through a 12-hour shift. I used to be able to. Why can't I now? Like, what's going on with me? Or everyone else around me is able to do this. Why do I seem like the only one that's struggling? It must be something to do with me. And that kind of blame, and then maybe even a little bit of guilt or shame or something, where you're starting to feel a bit less than. And, that's not necessarily fair to feel like that. But it made me start thinking about teenagers. Like I don't have any kids. So this is not something that I've been, on the other side of. I can only remember my own puberty and how that would be. That was a little bit tricky. It was a period of time where there was a lot of unknowns and a lot of insecurity, a lot of feeling all kinds of things. And yeah, those hormones, for women, the estrogen and progesterone are all starting to turn on. Your system is starting to get used to having a monthly cycle. So you've gone from being a child and you're transitioning into being a woman, and all that unknown and insecurities and just feeling really out of it, I guess. But also all your friends were going through it at around the same time too. So that probably helped a little bit. You all could be insecure and unsure together. But with perimenopause, where you've gone through like your whole life up until that point, you've gotten through all that insecure weirdness of puberty and adolescence and things. You've become an adult. You've been able to navigate the world as an adult. You're feeling secure in who you are, what you're about, what you're doing in life. And then perimenopause comes along and some things come back, like some of those being unsure of yourself feelings. And so it made me sort of certainly view some of the adolescent and teenage patients that I will occasionally be working with, certainly with a lot more compassion and empathy when folks perhaps are not really articulate, or they just seem so scared, or you think, how do you not know this? And maybe they haven't had to learn it yet, and this is now their opportunity, So yeah, so I think teenagers are I've got a little bit more empathy and compassion for them now than I perhaps did when I was in my 30s or in my 20s, you know, and definitely for others that are also going through some of these sort of insecurities or transition moments where insecurities or just feeling not like yourself is showing up. You know, I think it can be quite easy for us to blame ourselves or feel like others think badly of you because you're not coping or something, you know. But I think it's a very opportune moment to invite some curiosity in, to actually take that step back and sort of think, well, could there be something else at play? Is it just that a person is in a transition stage of life? Is it that I am actually not capable of working a 12-hour shift when I have no estrogen or progesterone and my period is overdue and I am running on literal fumes? You know, and to give myself some compassion and grace in that. Maybe I don't need to be pushing myself quite so hard in those times, because some of those things are out of my control, or direct control. And yeah, whether there can perhaps be some compassion for self and others in that time. And when you're going through something like that, you know, it's not always burnout. It's not always exhaustion. Sometimes it's your hormones, and that's okay. And I think when we can embrace that it is okay, that we have cyclical hormonal times, that we can't expect ourselves to be steady all the time when that's not how our bodies work, even without perimenopause going on. Then yeah, being able to actually invite some of that curiosity and compassion for yourself or for others could be a good thing. Anyway, I would love to know what you think. So definitely please let me know down in the comments, and yeah, I'll chat with you soon. Bye.